Hello. This is Kuah, and folks, I am very happy and grateful to once more be on the set of the Kuah show. I have missed it for these past weeks, but I can say I have spent a wonderful time because I have met our people. I did meet our people. I know a lot of stuff had happened, but I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that I have met the warriors of our people. And I cannot be more happy than I am today, because I know that those I met, they will carry the fight to La Republic. That the days that La Republic will walk as masters of our land, unchallenged, arrogant, is coming to an end. I know a lot has happened. Skakuf elected a chairman, or is it a prime minister or a president? Nobody seems to know. But from what I heard as coming out of a conclave in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, Mr. John Fundi of the SDF party went on a tour of Great Britain and the world, it was a federation that was trying to sell, and as if that wasn't enough, it seems as if a group organized another federalist event in Atlanta where Dr. Munzu championed, and from every indication had the floor wiped, and his arguments absolutely debunked by the great Ambazonian Professor Carson Anyangwe and lawyer Bobga and a group of very patriotic men and women of our land who were very intent to tell the story of the destiny of our people, not one tied to La République du Cameroon and the French colonial empire. And so, folks, a lot has happened. A lot of stuff had happened that we would have time probably in the next few weeks to cover. I mean, in all these headlines that I was giving, I have not even made mention of the fact that Paul Biya was entering Bamenda like a thief in the night. The president of La République du Cameroon, and hanging out in his cars and trying to get funds to meet with him. That is like news. Also news of our people being turned, more of our people being turned from visiting the land of their birth as they try to get in through the airports in La République du Cameroon, through Yaoundé and Douala. More sad stories. I remember on this set before I left for vacation, talking about the story of one gentleman from Ireland who was turned at the airport and was very mad and sent out a very clear message to our people and to La République du Cameroon. And so, folks, these are stuff that has been going on, but what came out a few days ago is a total validation of everything that I had been saying since we began this show. You know, there are some times when you bring out stuff, you are able to unearth material that causes disbelief within segments of our people and within in mankind. You might hear stories being told to British people, to Americans, about what the Nazis were planning and doing as they gear up to exterminate millions of people. And it will be utter disbelief. It will be utter disbelief that no, mankind, the humanity in people cannot degenerate to such levels of depravity. You bring out, I mean, are we as mankind conditioned to always look in the good of people? Yes. Do we have a history as mankind of the utter depth of brutality that man can descend into? Yes. So why is it so hard, so tough, so impossible to believe and take seriously when this depravity is being held up to the light, and we still give the benefit of the doubt and the benefit of the doubt until the evidence mounts to such a level that you start digging up mass graves here, mass graves there, mass graves here, and you say, oh dear, I did not know that it was that bad. Folks, it is that bad in Cameroon, in the Cameroons. It is that bad. Not now, not yesterday, not last year, for decades. It is that bad. Anybody, anyone who feels that, you know what, this is a recent event, is not only willfully fooling themselves, but they are disingenuous, because the history of brutality of La République du Cameroun and its French allies, French master, is as clear as the light of day. In our land, in their land, the evidence is pure, nothing tainted with that. And the track record is there, folks. The track record from Rwanda to Ivory Coast, from Algiers, Marrakesh, to the Gambias, to the Guineas. Folks, we are talking about a history of criminal depravity that has been demonstrated on the continent of Africa by a culture, a people, an empire, the French colonial empire in Africa. Today, we get Amnesty International report, and I challenge Amnesty. I challenge them. They sit and they talk about the current events that they have unearthed in La République du Cameroun as if in their own databases, in their own house, they don't have a history of torture and extrajudicial murders that the people of Ambazonia have suffered at the hands of the current junta and former junta in La République du Cameroon. On the Ben Kuah show, I spoke about the genocide that visited the people of Ndu and its environs. On this set, I spoke about the genocidal campaign that was carried out to wipe out the people of Ambazonia through the sterilization, unknowing and forcibly sterilization of young Ambazonian women in schools and colleges. On this set, we exposed the genocidal and biological warfare that's waged on the people of Ambazonia as agents, carriers of the AIDS virus were flooded into the land of Ambazonia to infect a people and wipe them out. I spoke here about the death through unspeakable torture, unspeakable acts of depravity, where thorns were used, forced down the urinary tracts of men captured, abducted in jail. These are not events of today, folks. These are a history and a pattern. These are stuff in the database of Amnesty International. The idea that Amnesty in its report would say, why are they doing this? And they answer, because the Cameroon government is fighting a war against the armed group Boko Haram. That, folks, that is one of those biting statements. One of those statements that cover up and camouflage the absolute act of terror that our people have been living under for decades. And you come and you whitewash it with a statement, a sanitized statement, that why are they doing this? Because they are fighting a war against Boko Haram? Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? When these guys took out girls from the University of Buea and they beat them in the streets, and they forced their faces and asked them to roll in sewage, when they shoot and they throw grenades on unarmed Southern Ambazonians marching on the streets for their rights, when they go into girls' dorms and they rape and they kill, when they kill people. You know, folks, sometimes you look at people who come in and you think that you have people who are going to be able to expose and make sure that this doesn't happen. And they come and they put such superficial statements to grant excuse, because this is nothing more than an excuse to these people. For them to start, oh yeah, we are fighting Boko Haram, it's not a piece of cake. Look, folks, when you do that, Amnesty International, you do not help. You become part of their problem. A big part of their problem. The modus operandi, the idea of a beer presidency, the idea of a French colonial empire centered in Yaoundé, in La République du Cameroon, that idea is an idea forged in terror. It's an idea, an ideal, a legitimacy born out of terrorism on the people of Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. It's not because they are fighting any armed group or what. That's not it. The torture chambers from the BMM and in upstation Bamenda to the police camps and the army barracks. Those are decades in the making, folks. They are not today. They are not today's event. So let no one fool you, not Amnesty International or anybody, that these guys just discovered that they are fighting a war against Boko Haram. And was there Boko Haram in the southern, in the Amazonia? Did the girls that they were sterilizing in their school, were they Boko Harams? Or the babies in their womb were already designated Boko Harams? The 8 viruses that they sent into our territory, were they sending it to fight Boko Harams? Did the Patete Phillips that were murdered and shot in their jails and killed, those that are buried in unmarked graves, were they Boko Harams? No, folks. No. These are mere citizens of Ambazonia, people who believe in their own dignity and in the dignity of their forefathers and their progenies. That's their belief, and for that they died in brutal fashion. Brutal fashion. So look at the report that Amnesty International just produced. A hefty response to an already bloody crisis. Children abducted, villages looted and razed to the ground. Boko Haram has been unleashing havoc in Cameroon's far north region. In the face of rampant violence and atrocities, the Cameroon government has rightfully responded, but with a ferocity that has shattered the lives of ordinary people. For those living in the far north, fear of Boko Haram's attack has now been coupled with the fear of the very government that is meant to protect them. The Rapid Intervention Battalion, Cameroon's Army's Allied Unit, and the General Directorate of External Research, the DJRE, are part of the military operation fighting against Boko Haram. The victims of Cameroon's crackdown against alleged Boko Haram members, as documented by Amnesty International in its report, Cameroon's Secret Torture Chambers, are mostly Cameroonian men between the ages of 18 and 45 from the far north region, Muslims, Kanuri ethnic group. Some of the detainees include women, children as young as 7, and people with mental and physical disabilities. The majority are arrested on the basis of little to no evidence. Some were arrested merely for failing to show their ID. In the 101 cases documented, most were arrested in the far north region, and all without a warrant and without any clear explanation of why they are being arrested. You know, folks, at at some point, we just have to be honest. Do Black Lives Matter? Do we as a people register on any scale? Mankind? Do Ambazonians' life matter? This is a report about events in the far north of La République du Cameroon. I can bet you why this report came out. This report came out to this level because there were some white men walking around these torture chambers. American troops were suddenly involved. That is why you have this report. Because, folks, the horror that the people of Ambazonia are facing. They are talking that people are arrested merely for not showing ID. Our young men and women are taken off the streets, taken to the Bafut airport and flown into torture chambers into the unknown in a foreign country, in La République du Cameroon, ID notwithstanding. Internet was blocked and our people could not get online. Their phones became a crime. That holding a cell phone became grounds for being arrested and to disappear in the middle of the night, sent to a foreign country, or tortured and murdered and buried in unmarked graves for months. And you did not hear, you did not read one peep from Amnesty International as a blackout descended on our territory and terror in its purest form, not in a military base, on our streets, in broad daylight. Our young men were wrapped like goats, ready to be pitted over an open fireside. Our women were hit with sticks and with nails. That, folks, this was going on in broad daylight. And because an American troop was somewhere around La République, we have pages upon pages of documentation of a torture. That is not one tenth of what our people in Ambazonia are facing right now. Right now. So we are on our own, folks. Even when you receive a report that purports to come to your aid, you discover how little the research is done on a brutal regime. The ready-made excuse that is baked into that report that they are fighting a Boko Haram or what. And the absolute disregard of the people, and only regard being attached to the fact that there were some American troops around. And that's why we have this. So in an utter nonsensical, I really don't want to be too harsh on this. They, I really, but I cannot help. I cannot help myself, because this is what I have told you, the history of the monarch, this neo-colonialist in Yaoundé, Mr. Paul Biya. I've told you his history of torture and how he maintains his grip on power in La République. With all that, this is what Amnesty International is writing. Public order and security forces say that President Biya has the power to stop this. Please sign the petition and call on the president to publicly order the security forces to end the practice of torture and sacred detention. Ensure all detainees can freely access a lawyer of their choice, their family, and medical care. Grant independent international monitors unhindered access to all detention facilities and people in prison. Conduct prompt, thorough, independent, and impartial investigation into all allegations of torture, incommunicado, detention, and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment in all places of detention. They wrote that with your support, we will be able to put pressure on the Cameroon authorities to respect the rights of people in their fight to keep the country safe. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know where Laurent Gbagbo is? Laurent Gbagbo is in detention in Europe, being put in front of an international court for violating the rights. You see what a joke these people are? Do you see what an utter joke they are? That is an absolute... Look, folks, the international court is an instrument of imperialism. Okay? It's an instrument of colonization. The fact that Mr. Paul Biya is being asked here by the Amnesty International, asking you to absolutely waste your time and your effort in what they term here to put pressure for him to do that. The fact that he is sitting there and this is what they are asking you to do, and Mr. Laurent Gbagbo, the legitimate president of Ivory Coast, is facing in the International Court of Justice, is a joke. A full-on joke. Okay, folks? Are they drawing articles of impeachment at the International Court, or they're asking you to do this nonsense? You know, people thought that the genocide in Rwanda was an act that the world believed a situation of Africans against Africans. When you see stuff like this, and these two names that I cited, Paul Biya being asked by the guardian of human rights in the world, and Laurent Gbagbo facing the International Court, when you see this nonsense, then you understand how France got away with the murder of more than 1 million Africans in Rwanda. You see why. Okay? You see why. And that is why, clearly, and let me state it purely here, that is why it is not going to be, I did not know, we did not know, the international community did not know, because a genocide that has been going on is being planned on the people of Amazonia right now. In the halls of France, and let me be very clear, in the halls of the Elysee Palace, in Yaoundé. The French Foreign Legion has already beefed up their presence in La République du Cameroon and in Ambazonia. The genocide that they are planning, another one on the continent of Africa. Let no one say that I did not know, we did not know. It is being planned right now. This sanitized report, as I tell you, of Amnesty International is a sideshow for what is going on in my land, of what is going on in Ambazonia. This, folks, is a sideshow. And let me be plain. The American government and the American people cannot give the excuse that they did not know. Because American armored cars and personnel that train with their troops are marching on the streets of Ambazonia, and these folks is what they are doing. The American government cannot, I repeat, cannot claim ignorance. This is the 11th hour, folks. The final program for the termination of the people of Ambazonia is being put in place. Security forces, these torturers and murderers, are being beefed up as bases are being cleared in the southern Cameroons for torture of huge numbers of people. The DJRE in Station Bamenda, the police stations, the Sûreté Nationale, the warders, the prison in Upstation Bamenda, they have, over these months, their seams have bulged, and those taken to Kondengi is bulging. The airport in Bafut in Bamenda is now being cleared as torture structures are being put in place for the final solution for the people of Ambazonia. These are the preparations going on now. American weaponry, and American trained forces are now putting these finishing touches and are marching through the streets of Ambazonia and picking off people. That is a clear message that should be going to them. We know what happened in Rwanda. The French are in Cameroon. We know what is going to happen in Cameroon. Let nobody say that they did not know. We don't want, over Mount Fako, a southern Cameroonian writing a letter telling the world, as they did in Rwanda, that today we are informing you that we and our children and our people will be dead by the morning because French troops were surrounding them. Folks, I am saying this and I'm being clear here because of the fact. Look, let me read a little bit of this. Detained and tortured off the grid. Through our research, Amnesty International was able to identify at least 20 sites in which incommunicado detention and torture occurred between 2014 and 2017. These sites involve the BIR, the American trained BIR, who train with American Special Forces, headquarters in Salak. DJRA facilities lack a private residence and school. On average, a detainee could spend 227 days in an unofficial detention center, although some have exceeded 900 days. Tortured in these unofficial detention facilities is routine. It is used to extract confession, intimidate, and instill fear, says Fatima, a former detainee. The soldiers beat me for 3 days all over my body, especially on the soles of my feet, with all sorts of objects, in order to make me admit things I know nothing about. You know, I am looking at this, and the thing that I am trying to find is where they talked about the American and French presence in these torture facilities. But I will not touch that. I will just go into this report by Paul McClary in Foreign Policy. That was on the 27th of July that he wrote this, that he filed this report. It is titled "Pentagon Investigating If U.S. Troops Knew of Torture in Cameroonian Base." So he wrote that the U.S. military is investigating a report that its service members were present at a Cameroonian base where U.S. trained security forces allegedly detained and tortured civilians. So he said the allegation arose in an Amnesty International report released earlier this month, which documented over 100 cases of arrest and torture of civilians by Cameroonian security forces as they press civilians for intelligence about Boko Haram terrorist groups. The report included photographs of U.S. personnel at one base where the abuses allegedly occurred, although there have been no reports of Americans taking part in the torture or witnessing it. There are over about 300 American military personnel plus civilian contractors in Cameroon helping the government there fight Boko Haram, a group that had terrorized several West African states over the years. The deployment is part of Washington's push to train and advise small nations across the globe to fight extremist forces, with U.S. troops operating surveillance drones, training local forces, and helping to plan missions. Asked about the report, Captain Jennifer Diarasek, a military spokesman, told Foreign Policy in an email that U.S. Africa Command has ordered that an inquiry be conducted into these allegations. Diarasek said due to the open inquiry she is unable to provide many details. However, a portion of the inquiry will include determining what reported information, if any, AFRICOM was aware of prior to this allegation. Certain units of the Rapid Intervention Battalion, the BIR, are already banned from receiving U.S. military assistance due to credible information implicating them in human rights abuses. U.S. Ambassador to Cameroon, Michael Hoser, told Amnesty in a letter. The State Department has confirmed civilian deaths and torture at the hands of these units. There you have it, folks. The State Department has confirmed civilian deaths and torture at the hands of those units. Why are the Americans in La République in Cameroon? Why are they there? These are the people, in their own reports, that they identified pick up civilians and torture them to death. They have this history. This is not a recent history. The depravity of La République du Cameroun is not a recent history. From the day of their maquisard to today, the pattern is clear. Why are the Americans in La République du Cameroun? Why do they train these Turks to go out and murder our people? Why are they supporting a regime that is a junta, that is a neo-colonial government, that propagates the foreign policy of France, that looks at Africa as its colonial empire? Why will the Americans spend taxpayers' money to support a regime that tortures and murders and propagates the policy of France in Africa, or France-Afrique? What is it in there for the Americans? What's in it for them? Why? Laurent Gbagbo is there because the American played footsie to the French, and their empire remains intact. Muammar Gaddafi is dead because the Americans played patsy and putsies to the French, and the French colonial empire in Africa remains intact. American played putsies to the French as they got into Mali, and their energy and their nuclear facilities are running, and the French colonial empire remains intact. Americans played patsies and putsies to the French as they murdered 1 million Rwandans. And the American and the French colonial empire was wounded as Rwanda fought and went away. Folks, are the American playing putsies to the French in Africa? Is the American African diplomatic corps being infiltrated by French intelligence, and they are working for France rather than America? Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the cusp of something massive in Africa. The second, within a few decades, genocide committed by France. We are on the cusp of that in Cameroon, and the Americans are once more a central figure, though they are playing putsies to the French intelligence and to a tin pot dictator, Mr. Paul Biya, in La République du Cameroun. And the question must go from Secretary Tillerson on down within the State Department. Have the Americans been infiltrated for decades by the French intelligence? The American African diplomatic corps, are they controlled within the French intelligence in the Élysée Palace? That's a question they must ask themselves. You know, because the Southern Cameroonian people are not going to go silently into the night. The Rwandans did not do that. As I have stated here, we are heirs. We are heirs to heroes in Africa. We are heirs to Chief Kuah. We are heirs to the Ambumbis. We are heirs to men who have stood for the dignity of their people. And we are not going to allow in our territory for one day longer that we are slaves to La République du Cameroon and French colonial empire. So it's time for the Americans to ask very serious questions about themselves and their government. Are they going to once more become embroiled in the blood of innocent Africa in order to maintain them as slaves to French colonial Africa? That is what this report tells us. But we tell them, we tell the Americans, because we look at the Martin Luther Kings. We tell the Americans, because we look at the Patrick Henrys. We tell the Americans that, folks, we are going to be the Patrick Henrys in our own land, in Africa. And you have a natural ally and should get out of La République du Cameroon as soon as you can. Because you don't want, you never want to be on the side of defeat. Because the French colonial empire and La République du Cameroon will be defeated. You know why? Because America defeated Great Britain and got their independence. And as Martin Luther King, a great American, said, the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice. No matter what they do, Amazonia is going to free itself. And the Americans don't want to be on the wrong side of history.